Okay, I have been trying to do this like for the last 30 minutes, but YouTube changed how they go live. So here I am now. I'm sorry for all the confusion for those of you who entered the chat and then nothing would happen. So I hope you are all having a decent holiday. I know it is very hard. Well, I was going to say this time of year, but I know just living is hard for many of you. That's why y'all were drawn to Caitlyn, because y'all had a lot in common with her depression. Sorry, I'm still adjusting. So I don't see anybody in the chat, so I'm wondering if this is working. If someone could say something, that would be great, because right now I don't know if it's working. So because if it's not working, I'm going to restart and hi, Michelle. I'm not sure who you are, but hello. So what I'm wondering is because as you know, Caitlyn took her life this day in 2016. Hey, Sherry. So I'm wondering, where were y'all? Where were y'all when y'all met Caitlyn? When was it? And do you feel like you met her just by chance, or hi? Yes, God rest her soul. I want to share how I came to know her. So I always feel like, had my life not taken such a dramatic shift, I never even would have met her, because I had just gotten on my feet that year for the first time since being married to my husband. And by getting on my feet, I mean I was working full time at my children's school. And we were living in a women's shelter, but I was able to save money for a deposit in the future. And I was just really getting on my feet. I was proud of myself. But then, without going into too much detail, we had to abruptly leave because of some pretty dangerous toxicity. And I'm going to leave it at that. And I was having to quickly put stuff in garbage bags 2 weeks before Christmas in 2016. And while my kids were in school, I had to leave work to do that. And I had no choice. I had no choice but to go back to my husband's, where I am now. And had that not happened, I never would have gotten to know Caitlyn, because for one, I had no internet connection in the shelter. And the only way people came to know Caitlyn was through her live streams. Secondly, I had no time. I had zero time because the kids and I had to get up at 4 a.m. to get to the school-age childcare and on time. And then I was not off work until 6:30 p.m. And sometimes we wouldn't get out till later. So and then when we'd get home, it was, because it was communal living, it was constant chaos. So I just don't see how in the world I ever would have gotten to know Caitlyn had what I thought back then was like the end of my life, basically, when I had to put our stuff in garbage bags and we had to stay in a hotel because we had no idea where we were going to go. I never realized that was opening up a door to me getting to know Caitlyn, and then also getting to meet so many people who also fell in love with her. And it has been life-changing and humbling. And I'm wondering how y'all got to know her. Oh, John Crimes. Okay. I'm from Boston, Massachusetts. So Sherry, okay, so you kind of then are relatively new to the Caitlyn community then. I'm from Boston, Massachusetts. The news of that prick, Luke Callahan, ran like wildfire and brought me to Caitlyn's tragic story. Luke got incarcerated at Plymouth County. Yeah, and to think that Polk County Police had video evidence of him being inappropriate, to say the least, with a 12-year-old, but they did nothing with it. They had actual video evidence in front of them, and it took Boston police having to do something. Like, that's unreal. Like, it took police from another state having to do something because it didn't deal with Caitlyn. It dealt with some other girl who I think was like 13, wasn't like, so he has a thing for, even some might say prepubescent, because not all 12-year-olds start puberty. So I'm glad he's behind bars. I never met her personally. I found out about her sadly after the event. Wish I was there to help her, but sadly I live in another country. Well, yeah, people from all over the country have really been touched by Caitlyn. Found out about her through a Tammy Sotomayor video. I don't know who that is. Then I researched more. See, so many of you have said that you found out about her through tribute videos or people talking about her online. And this is why when a lot of trolls try to infiltrate in a negative way into the Caitlyn community and demand that people stop talking about Caitlyn, it's like, why? Like, that is what introduces a lot of people to her, is by talking about her. Like, our human voice, being able to communicate through language, is one of the things that distinguishes us from other mammals. That's how we express our feelings and our thoughts. And I don't just see Caitlyn as a human. Anybody can just be a human. Horrible people are humans. I see Caitlyn as like a feeling. She's like a feeling because she makes you feel a certain way. She makes you feel love, and she makes you want to be more pure, and she makes me anyway want to be more forgiving and more open and just more patient, really more patient. And hi, P. Louise. Yeah, it is unreal. And I don't know about y'all, but like, it'll hit me really randomly, even though it's been, since the beginning of 2017 that I met her online. Like, it'll hit me randomly, like in the oddest times. I mean, I could be at the drive-thru with my children getting food, and it'll play out like a movie reel, but really quickly in little clips of just like, wow, she did this. No. And it's like, it'll just do that. So it's one of like, knowing Caitlyn and then knowing what happened is one of those things that's why I said she's like a feeling. It never leaves you. That feeling never leaves you. She was a dear, sweet child that was born into horrific circumstances that would have driven anybody to suicide. I feel like had she not been stuck in a rural setting, and had she just had a trusting neighbor to run to, I feel like that could have saved her. Because there are many kids her age that are going through that, and which is horrible, but it's the truth. And a lot of them, though, they run away and they go to like a neighbor, and CPS actually does their job. If she had regular caring parents instead of trash, so sad. So speaking of her parents, I know that Tammy had a baby, and I don't want to say where the baby is or anything like that. I know that Anthony Rogers recently, I think it was like a month, it was in November, married a new woman. She's very pretty and she seems like a normal person, which I know is like, you can't really tell from just online, but like by normal, I'm saying like there's nothing that stands out as like trashy or like dangerous or anything like that. She seems like a great mother based on her. Now she has children already. I believe she has like 4 of her own kids, and she's got 1 son and all the rest are girls. And I think like 2 of them are either graduating this year or they already graduated this year. I'm not sure, but they all are such beautiful girls. They look very young, and that's frightening. Like, it makes me wonder, is she aware at all of Anthony Rogers' background? That Anthony Rogers touched Caitlyn multiple times, tried to rape her, beat her, would tell her, kill yourself, I'll buy the rope. Like, is she completely ignorant to all that? Maybe she is. Maybe she doesn't get online, because unless she gets online, like, how would she really know that? Like, because his family, his mom, Debbie, and then all of the other side of the family, they're all about secrecy. It's all about secrecy. Like, if you do what I'm doing now and you just state facts of things that he said, somehow I'm a horrible person for stating facts of what he said, even though it's the truth, and knowledge is power. And she would definitely have power in knowing that about him, since she has 3 daughters. Like, I can't, like, so if you go on Facebook and you type in Anthony Lee Rogers, or actually he has it as Tony Lee Rogers, I think senior, but it's Tony Lee Rogers, and you'll see, if you click, it says married, and then it'll have his wife's name. If you click on her page, you'll see all of her beautiful children, and it's just like, whoa. And then too, it shows when they got married, and they got married in November. So she's very new to the whole Anthony Rogers filth. That's putting it very nicely. A spiritual feeling, yes. Wasn't he a pedophile? So I guess the technical term would be a hebephile or something, or the one with an E. Basically, when you're attracted to, like, not necessarily like a toddler or a child, but like a child that's preteen and beginning of a teen, where they look like they're developing, whatever. I think it's all horrible. Yeah, that's what he is. She needs to do some research on who she dates. Yeah, I feel sorry for her, honestly, because she doesn't seem like she gets on her Facebook that much. Like, she hasn't even updated her photos, like, hardly ever. You know, like, some people, when they're, like, in their late 30s and older, social media is not, like, they're just not on it as much. And, like, maybe she just, you know, I can't help but think that, because nobody, like, you can tell if you just look at her children that they're well taken care of, that they're healthy, educated. Like, there's no way, based on all that I feel like she would enter this monster. Even if he was super charming in person, like, the logical part of her brain would have to consider all of what went on, and even just how he handled it after, his nonchalant, cocky attitude about the whole thing, still insulting Caitlyn, still degrading her, like, and then trying to act like everything was fine because I worked most of the time. That was always his excuse. I was gone working most of the time. Like, as if that just excuses everything else. Like, I think if she knew all of that, her daughters, and there's also a picture that his mom, Debbie or Deborah, I'm not sure which it is on Facebook. It's one of those. Deborah Tant, or Tant, posted on her Facebook page, and it's a fairly recent photo, and Anthony's new wife's children are holding Abby and AJ, and, you know, because they're living with him. They're living with him. They're living with him still, and Abby is not wearing pants. She's just in, like, it looks like either a top or a dress, but either way, there are no pants. I think it's a top because it comes up short enough you can see her entire underwear. And they're all just on a couch. And it's the same couch that the picture was taken with Caitlyn, with Anthony and all them at Deborah's house. That just makes it eerie to me. But the thought of Abby running around pantsless in this guy's, I don't even want to call him a guy, this thing's house, or his mother's house, whatever. But, you know, if she's doing it there, she's probably doing it at his too, is disturbing. Like, I don't sexualize kids, okay? So, like, in any other situation, if a little girl Abby's age wants to run around in her underwear, I'm not one of these people. I'm kind of like a hippie about it. I'm not one of these people who's like, oh my God, that is atrocious. Go put clothes on. But when you consider the circumstance, it being in his presence, she needs pants on. A hebephile, yeah. Gone working, trying to find drugs and children for his pleasure. Yeah, really. How old is Abby? Isn't she about 7? I believe so. Oh my God, when I heard they were with that thing, I was so mad. I was crying. Yes. So many in the Caitlyn community, like, could not believe it. Like, we thought maybe things would change. Like, maybe this was temporary. No, hasn't changed. And then people, they leave comments all the time asking for, updates, and it's like, I don't have an update. Like, nothing has changed. So here in my country, if you do something like Tammy and Tony did and there's no lawful justice, pray, because people will hunt you down from where you work to where you live. It's wrong. What country are you in? So you're saying like where you are that like had Tammy and Tony, South Africa. Okay. Oh, wow. That's so cool. So are you saying that like, so do you have an accent? Are you saying that out where you are, people like Tammy and Tony and all them can get away with abuse and neglect? Or are you saying the other way around? Sorry. Is Tammy still a drug addict? She's passed all of her drug. She has all these random drug tests from the state, and she's been passing every single one of them. She stayed clean the entire duration of her pregnancy as well. And the biggest thing about Tammy right now has been homelessness and depression and health problems, kidney failure, precancerous symptoms, and getting no treatment, living out of her car, having visions constantly, PTSD like visions, understandably. And she actually is in immense suffering. Sorry, she's in immense suffering. Unlike everyone else in the family, who seems to just be, or not who seems to be, who they're just living their lives as they did before Caitlyn left the world. So, and I know that made Matt mad when I said that, but it's the truth. I mean, there's nothing different going on in his life than what went on before Caitlyn. So, Tammy, she went through her own abuse, and I'm not like making excuses, but she saw, her dad lying in the bed dead. They don't even know if he really killed himself. It's suspected that her own mother killed him. And because the way he was shot, like in the back of his head at an angle, it made no sense. And her mother does seem to lack a guilty conscience. So honestly, like, I would not be surprised. I know that's like a stretch to say, but it's really not if you know like the whole backstory of her grandma. And then she and her sister Daphne and her sister Valerie were all kind of left to fend for themselves because their mother was preoccupied with romantic interests and money. And they didn't have a proper education. So Valerie, just has a different, everybody reacts differently to trauma. Me and my two sisters, we're all completely different with how we react to trauma. And for Valerie, she was going to prove to herself that she was going to get out of the trailer. And she even has pictures about it, and that she was going to take all of her energy and put it into studying to become a nurse, and was going to find a man to help take care of her and to start a family with. And that's what she did. Not everybody has that sort of like motivation. For some people, trauma can cause you to be motivated. For other people, trauma can cause you to become catatonic and numb and self-sabotage. And that's what Tammy did. And she met Matt, and Matt actually had domestic violence charges against him because he had a temper when they would fight. He was very controlling, and then they separated, and that's when she got with Anthony. And Daphne was kind of like a mix between the two. I'm not going to say that she was a drug addict, but she had her own dependencies that were self-sabotaging, but she was also like Valerie in that she was able to balance better than Tammy. She was able to like pick herself back up. And yeah, so, Does anybody want to be a moderator? Because Mark Reynolds is a troll whose wife actually sent me voice recordings telling me about how he is basically a very mentally unhealthy person. So if anybody would like to be a moderator so they can take people like Mark Reynolds out of the chat who are causing a distraction about Caitlyn and her family and the surrounding factors that led to her death, that would be great, because actually, I'm just going to click on his name. He's telling me to focus on Caitlyn even though I'm talking about Caitlyn, and because he's doing this as a distraction. So I want to actually see the people in here who do focus on Caitlyn and who are not mentally unsound. Yeah, I'm trying to block him, actually. There we go. All right. I put him in timeout. So, but it's not, I'm not seeing an option to block. Like when I click on, see, this is the thing. This is what trolls do. They will distract, they'll pollute, they'll poop all over stuff, right? They'll poop all over important stuff because they want attention on them. Let's see. Okay, so actually, I'm going to make Sherry a moderator. Okay, so you're a moderator, Sherry, so you can block him if you can figure out how, because I tried, and he's actually somebody that goes on my Facebook, and his wife reached out to me and sent me voice things letting me know that she saw all of his troll accounts and that, you know, she's very worried about his mental health, so that would be great. Are you saying Tammy deserves to suffer? Hi, Ian. Well, Tammy is suffering, so we can pull a South African out. What is that? What is a South African? You know, Caitlyn really loved traveling, and she loved history. One of the things that her dad, Matt, said was that whenever she would have homework that dealt with like history or geography or anything like that, you know, that like leads to a person becoming more cultured, that the mom side of the family, Tammy's side of the family, other than like Valerie, that they were very like not for that, apparently. Like they just wanted her to have like one ideal whatever, like politically and everything else socially. But Caitlyn, he said that Caitlyn would call him sometimes, this was obviously before they were completely estranged, and talk to him about her homework, and it would be, if it was like history or geography, that she would be so enthralled with it, and they would talk for a really long time about it, and that she wanted to learn more and more and more. And she'd be like, well, but Mama, and talking about like Anthony, but Mama and Anthony said that, you know, but it's only this and this and this, and that this is a lie. And he would be like, no. And I think it's so cool that she wanted to open up her mind, and that she wasn't going to close off her mind, and that she loved learning, because a lot of kids don't like have that natural love for learning, you know, like they have to be made to want to learn. But she liked learning. Oh, you're welcome. Oh my gosh, I wish there was a way to give Caitlyn a second chance at life, but one with happiness and joy. Yes, yes. When I have these reoccurring moments where I visualize like clips of what happened in the middle of anything I'm doing, I immediately want to just, it's like, you know, when you wake up from a dream and you're like, no, like you want to go back to sleep because you want to be back in that dream. It's like that from when I watch live streams of Caitlyn. She feels so real and alive, and I just want to send her a message online. I want to like find out her email. I want to find her on Facebook. And you know, sometimes I do go on her Facebook page and I just look back at things that she posted, and she was hilarious. Like she made these little animation things, and she was actually like witty, legitimately witty. like made me laugh. And she made some animations about like Elvis and stuff. Thank you, Sherry. I really appreciate it. Oh, thank you. She was a very intelligent girl. I listened to her on Talk About God, and she had so many insights and surprised me. Yes, and the way that she would talk about her spirituality and stuff, she was very open about it to where it was all inclusive. It wasn't divisive. It wasn't like wishing eternal torture on non-believers. It was like the way you'd hear Jesus talking about stuff. It was like all inclusive. It was love. It wasn't hate. It was acceptance. It wasn't rejection. It was forgiveness. It wasn't grudge holding. And so I love that's how she spoke of her spirituality, because a lot of times, like for myself, for instance, if I talk about spirituality, it becomes controversial and taboo because I focus more on like the dark side of, not for myself, but like what other people choose to believe in. That's what I talk more about when I do talk about it. But she just, well, Caitlyn always was light. Caitlyn was always light. She was a very loving and caring girl. Is that pedophile Luke Callahan's? Yes. To my knowledge. I believe so. Thank you, Sherry. I noticed that too. So it's always interesting to me when people mention drama with a negative connotation, because what is life? Life is full of drama. That is life. Unless you're dead or unless you're sleeping, life is dramatic. We could fall and become paralyzed for the rest of our lives. One person we meet could change our entire life. One choice we make can change our entire future. That's dramatic. I could go outside right now and fall in a sinkhole. That's dramatic. Life is dramatic. And if you look at all the factors that led to Caitlyn's death, the very reason she's not here, the very reason people are remembering her on this day, it was dramatic. Her ending was dramatic. Her life was dramatic. Her thoughts were dramatic. Her tears were dramatic. Her singing was dramatic. Everything about Caitlyn was dramatic. So for somebody to say, like, to refer in a negative way, like, oh, it's just a bunch of drama, and why is that somehow meaningless? I don't understand. If somebody is remembering Caitlyn, they're gonna remember dramatic events, bottom line. So just saying. Sock accounts in coming from a troll. Everyone hit the decks. Yeah, Calden Ross is another one of Mark Reynolds's accounts. So you're going to be seeing more pouring in. Online, she called herself Dolly. Yes, she did. She would like raise her voice up and she'd be like, "It's Dolly," and then she would do that really cute like thing with her eyelashes, but then she would immediately turn it to like a sad face. She wanted to be a singer. She was a singer and performer. She was the most captivating person. She had the it factor. And she knew it too, because she would say to people who tried to insult her singing, probably out of jealousy or because she wouldn't strip for the perverts, she would say, you know, you can say many things about me, but I know I'm a good singer. So, and I think that's so good that she knew she was a good singer. Hi, Gypsy. I saw you in here earlier. I'm really sorry for the confusion. Like, so YouTube used to make it to where you could get on Hangouts live and you could live stream that way. But now it's like you have to go through OBS or you have to go through Discord, which I don't use, or you have to go through just all these other things. So this was not, this was like, I felt like a really old lady trying this out today. I can't believe how much we have in common with how deeply you resonate with Caitlyn. So many people say she was too good for this earth, but she should be here. She should be alive. Yes. Yeah, when you think of all the people that are still kicking and thriving on this planet that are heinous people, that have done heinous things, that have no guilty conscience, who are getting taken better care of in jails in America after they've murdered. But then you think that she left, and she left the way that she did, and she lived the life that she lived before dying. And it's like, maybe Earth isn't what we act like it is. Maybe, I don't know, because the fact that she's not here, but there are so many horrific people here, it's just like, and you know, I even run into grown men who say they have stuff in common with Caitlyn. Like, that's how much of an impact she made on people. Like, even grown men, like my friend Paul, he really can relate to her with a lot of her depressive tendencies, but not, I mean, anybody can be depressed. It's how she went about it. And I think that's fascinating that a little girl could even have grown men connect, like relating to her in that way. Again, that's why I say, to me, Caitlyn isn't just a girl, you know, a Caucasian girl with a name. Like, she's also a feeling, because she's a feeling that other people could relate with, and it's almost unexplainable. Thank you, Mama Heather. You come from a small town in Louisiana? That's my husband's favorite state he's ever visited. I bet Caitlyn would have loved Louisiana. I've actually never been, but you know how like y'all have a lot of like voodoo stuff, like dark gothic-y, yeah, voodoo stuff. What is it? Is it called Voodoo Fest? I think it's called Voodoo Fest, right? I feel stupid for not knowing. Caitlyn would have absolutely loved that. As a performer, I have choreographed a piece very special to me that is dedicated to the song is Scars to Your Beautiful. That song always makes me think of Caitlyn. Do you have it on your channel? She was so mature for her age, and the creeps took it. Oh, yes. It's makes me irate. You know, when I think of dancing and I think of Caitlyn, there's nothing more that makes me think of her than the video by Sia, S-I-A, that's Elastic Heart is what it's called, because the little girl dancing in that video, she's like in a cage, and she already to me looks like Caitlyn. Her name is like Maddie Ziegler in real life. She already looks like Caitlyn, but she's like dancing in it, and she's dancing in a way that's to me it looks very, it's like animalistic, but it's like also like it's tense. It's tense. Like her fists are clenched in a lot of scenes, and she's like, you know, like sad, and she's just like crawling, and it's just very intense. And then she's in this cage structure thing, and it looks like a giant bird cage kind of. And then there's that guy, Shia LaBeouf or something, and he reminds me of the people in Caitlyn's life who wanted to help her, who wanted so badly to help her. Grown men, a lot of healthy, non-perverted grown men, like my friend Rod and Ian and Ron and Philip and many others who wanted to help her. That's what that video reminds me of, and it's very emotional. After meeting Caitlyn, it's very emotional to watch that video. Yeah, Caitlyn's TikToks, she seriously, the little bit of time that she was on, I mean, when you think about it, she gained the most views like in all of November and December, mostly December, and she seriously, she would have been famous. I was going to say could have. She would have been famous, bottom line. Like, she's the type of girl that could have just walked into the grocery store and she just radiated something. There was something, well, probably her heart, you know, because like, it doesn't matter how beautiful somebody is. If they're a bitter, mean, unforgiving person, but she was the opposite of that, you know. I watched the video Elastic Heart a few days ago. You thought of Caitlyn. Yes. So you know what I mean then. Yes, Maddie does. They have like the same big blue eyes, and it's just the whole face. Her whole face. Caitlyn say old guy here. Caitlyn saved my life at that time. Do you mind elaborating on that? I think that's incredible, and I'm glad that you're here. And I don't know who you are, but if you're touched by Caitlyn, then that says something. Because there are a lot of people who met, you know, when I say met, I don't mean like you actually like interacted with Caitlyn. I'm talking about like you encountered her. A lot of people are made privy to Caitlyn, like whether it's through a friend or a family member who's talking about her, or they scroll past something, but they're not touched. Like they don't even let themselves get touched. It's just like, oh, well, that's sad. That sucks. And then they move on. So like, John, the fact that you were touched and captivated by her, I think that says a lot, because I just don't know how people could move on after meeting her. Hi, Courtney. I always think of her when I hear Lost Boys, Stressed Out, and the one about Call Me. Call Me. I don't know what that one is, but yeah, I do too when I hear Lost Boy and Stressed Out. And the one that's like, don't let me down, don't let me down. That one always makes me think of her. The one that makes me think of her mom right now, because of all the suffering her mom's going through, is it's called The A-Team. I think it's by Ed Sheeran, but it's called The A-Team. It's very sad. Listening to all her live feeds, you feel like we knew her. She was so raw and genuine. That's what I loved about her, was how raw she was. And how, despite everything she was going through, she wasn't going to be inauthentic. And she wasn't going to stuff her feelings. And she put all of her feelings out there. And that's why I always talk about how it's so important that you never call someone an attention whore if they're crying out in despair, or if they're expressing their sadness. No matter how dramatic the drama, oh no. No matter how much drama they may cause, if they're putting themselves out there, if they're vulnerable enough to risk being called an attention whore to begin with, then common sense should tell you they're probably not in a good place. They're probably fragile. So calling them an attention whore is dumb anyway, because unless you were shouting attention whore in a cave with no one in it, then guess what? By saying that, you wanted attention. So I hate the whole attention whore concept. It's dumb. It's not even logical. And it's just gross. And it's in my opinion, it's like an inadvertent way to push someone over the edge. It's like, oh, this person's already hanging over the edge. Let me just call them an attention whore, knowing that could push them over. It's disgusting. Caitlyn touched my heart. I was sad about it for 3 months. I had to talk to someone to get me better. I always think about her. There's not a moment I don't think about her. Yeah. I don't even remember how long. 3 months sounds about like what it was for me too. I know the first month was insane. It was like I wasn't sleeping. And still to this day, when I see little girls, if they've got big blue eyes, I think of Caitlyn. Even boys, even some little boys have reminded me of Caitlyn. I know that may sound weird, but it's like if they have a certain like animation to their personality and a certain just precociousness, it reminds me of Caitlyn if they're her age. Thank you, Nanya. The A-Team is a good song. Ed wrote it. Okay. after seeing a homeless girl who had a drug problem. Okay, well, yeah, that sounds like Tammy, or so I've heard. White lips, pale face, breathing in snowflakes. One call away. I feel like I know that song, but I don't know it just by the title. Teen bullying was an issue for her. She was called wicked things, like a monster and creepy emo girl. Yeah, and you know, I think if she were still here, that wouldn't even bother her anymore. I think she might even embrace those labels if she were still here. I think she would have been able to deal with being called those things. Like, it would have hurt her, yes, but I feel like she would have been able to push through if her home life, well, was more like a home and not a torture chamber. What's Tammy going through? So Tammy is homeless, living in her car and on the streets, and she has passed her drug tests, but she has had, like, I believe she's going through kidney failure, and she's been having really severe symptoms with that. Her organs are failing, and she is having PTSD, like visions, constantly. She doesn't, publicize this. She kind of, well, she it's not that she's in hiding, it's just that she keeps a low, she's shy, first of all, but she also just, she's so lost, she's lost, but she was always lost, and that had a lot to do with why, even though she would ask Caitlyn if Caitlyn were happy, and why, even though she did call police to have a report filed on Anthony, why, she would still fall asleep on the couch for hours at a time, neglecting the kids and stuff, because of the, back then when she was addicted to pain pills. So she just wanted to feel loved. She wasn't anything close to cheap. She was classy in all her vlogs and vids. She was a lot classier than I would have been at her age, with a webcam, feeling, needing to feel loved and stuff. She maintained classiness, and that's something I can say I would not have done. It's still difficult for me to fully get through a practice of my routine without crying, so hopefully I'll soon be able to be strong enough to actually skate it soon. Oh, goodness. Karma is a bitch, I guess. Caitlyn was a very sensitive girl that was hurt frequently. People who took advantage of her. Yes, they did take advantage of her. I think everybody referring, in her family anyway, referring to her as sick. Like, really? Why? How is she sick? Because she's not going to sugarcoat her reality? Because she's going to speak out about her conditions that she's living in? That makes her sick? Wouldn't she be mentally sick if she were actually doing the opposite and gaslighting herself and accepting everything as normal? I mean, that's how narcissists are created. Usually narcissists were abused in some way, and they gaslit themselves, and so they gaslight everybody else as a result. But Caitlyn wasn't about that life. She was honest and, almost to a fault. She was a realist. I believe it wasn't so much the labels, but being rejected, humiliated, and publicly shamed by her peers. Absolutely. I think Anthony was the kicker. And I'm going off of her own, like, her live streams, when she would cry the most and when she would get the angriest and the most passionate. And the only time she ever exhibited a glimmer of hate was for that creature, Anthony. In all the other realms of her life, she still had a little bit of forgiveness there, which was fascinating, because I don't think I would have. And so that's why I feel like Anthony was the kicker. She was trying to reach out. She's a beautiful soul, too good to forget. She wasn't sick. She was normal. She is always in my thoughts. Caitlyn was a light that shines for always. For forever. The people around her raising her were sick. She had horrible times at home and school. I'm on Facebook, yes. It's Rachel Celeste Kitchens. You know, it's so nice to hear and see people remembering her. Thank you for doing. Oh, no problem. I'm a part of a group chat where we actually talk about Caitlyn every single day. And we have been since 2017, because Caitlyn was the type of not just 12-year-old, but person who, and this is what makes it even sadder, she was like a lover of everything. She paid attention to everything. You know, she was the type of person who stopped and smelled the roses, as they say. So like if I'm watching a movie, it's like, oh wow, I bet Caitlyn would have liked this. Or I know she loved like pandas, for instance. And over the holiday when I was shopping for my kids, I saw a lot of stuff with pandas on it. And I was just like, wow, Caitlyn would have loved this. Or like, you know, new songs that come out. I'm like, oh, Caitlyn would love the song. Or, you know, and because you don't, you know, not everybody's like that. A lot of people are so in their own little box, and they're, you know, they're not, you know what I mean? Like, it's hard to come across somebody that you can just like sit down with, and it's like, they, you know how you'll show somebody something like on your phone, like, look at this, isn't this funny? And you can tell they're not really paying attention. They're just kind of like, Kayla was the type of person, she was interested in everyone and everything. So you could have showed her like a meme on your phone, and she would have been like, oh my, like she would have actually, you know, she was always engaged, even with strangers. And I mean, I'm not talking about in a bad way. That's just it. She, like, when the girl came into, or when the guy came into her chat and was talking about his relationship problems, she gave heartfelt advice. As a 12-year-old, gave heartfelt, very profound advice to this guy about why he shouldn't treat his girl the way he was treating her, basically. And so that's just how Caitlyn was. Like, she was not in autopilot. You know, she wasn't about small talk. She cut to the chase. And for some people who are about small talk, they interpreted that as drama, or they interpreted that as an attention whore. But for those who value authenticity, she was the real deal. And I think that was too much for some people to handle. So they would call her sick, because in her family, the truth hurt too much. So it was just easier to call her sick. Right this very minute. Yeah, she wasn't sick. She was genius, is what she was. Caitlyn will forever change our view of suicide. Yeah, and I'm grateful that we had all those live streams, because like most toxic narcissistic families, the secrecy and the hush-hush, the article that would have been published about her death, had she not have all those live streams, it would have just had her picture, which would not have opened us up to all of her personality at all. And it would have been along the lines of 12-year-old girl bullied to suicide. We wouldn't have known all about Anthony. We wouldn't have known about the foreign psychiatrist who'd barely been in practice and threw her Prozac, which has to be very closely monitored within the first month, and threw her back into the trailer. And we wouldn't have known about the living conditions in the trailer, or lack thereof living, I should say. And we wouldn't have known about her relationship with her siblings. Yeah, we wouldn't have known her. And so I'm really grateful that we live in a day and age where we can get to know people in more, you know, in many dimensions, you know, not just one little dimension, like in a photo. Could you put your Facebook link in the description? Okay, yes. The choreography, is that what you're saying? Okay, I'll put it here so that you can send me that dance that you made of Caitlyn. Actually, you know, I'm just going to put my name because then you can search it because I actually don't know my Facebook link. There are a lot of Facebook pages on, well, obviously Facebook, that are for Caitlyn, or should say groups. They're groups. And they are updated regularly. I don't usually update in there, but people start really interesting threads or they post very loving things about Caitlyn. And it's just a nice place for people who were equally touched by her, who constantly think of her, to share that similar sentiment, because some days it's very hard to it's easy, I should say, to get all consumed with her story. And so it's a healthy outlet to be able to connect with people who understand, you know, just being able to talk to people who understand and share that love for her. Because even though my kids and my husband know who she is, it's not the same, you know, they just don't understand. And maybe it's because they didn't watch all our live streams. Maybe it's because they didn't, you know, see the end and everything. But it's just not the same talking about her to them as it is talking to other people who are also, I don't like saying haunted by her, because haunted also has like a negative connotation, but like, you know, who constantly think of her. That's why it's so powerful, because she let us know her so well. Yes. She let us know her better than people we meet in person and hang out with. You know? Caitlyn was extremely smart. She knew the circumstances she was in was crap. And I love that about her. I've seen people older than her who for years and years have let their parents abuse them or abuse their siblings or abuse their other family members. And they will do the narcissistic thing and they'll like sugarcoat and gaslight, and then they grow up to do that same thing, because instead of calling it out for what it is and distancing themselves and going no contact, they decided to get enmeshed with all of that. And Caitlyn would not do that. Caitlyn separated herself from that, which angered a lot of them, especially Anthony. And his indifference, it seemed like there was just the people who didn't necessarily hate Caitlyn, it seemed like they were just indifferent to her. They just couldn't understand why she cared so much, or why she wasn't going to just pretend everything was perfect like everybody else was doing. You know, they just couldn't understand that. So it was just easier for them to just call her sick. It made them feel better to call her sick. That part gets me. She had just tried to kill herself a few weeks before all the streams. They have her pills and sent her back to the place that made her hopeless to begin with. Exactly, Jeffrey. Makes no sense. It defies logic. It defies logic. That'd be like if a cat was out in the, like, there was a certain part in the woods that was like full of a certain kind of weed or something and chemical that made the cat sick. And so the cat comes, you take it to the vet and you get it better. And then what do? You throw it back in the same part of the woods. What? It defies logic. Abby and AJ are currently in danger. Yeah. And I feel helpless. What can we do? Can we go march down to the police station out there and shake them by the shoulders and look them in the eyes and say, are you waiting on this house to have yellow tape up around it? Yellow caution tape because of a crime scene? Is that what you're waiting for? Are you waiting for, you know, years down the road for blogs to be online, written by Abby about the torture from her dad? Like, what are you waiting on, people? Why are we, you know, watching a chapter 2 of what happened to Caitlyn unfold when it's preventable? It's preventable. She just needed a little more time to see her way out. Yes, she did, Melly. She absolutely did. Thank you, by the way, Sherry, for being such a good moderator. I really appreciate it. You were on top of this chat. Like, you are on top of this chat. But yeah, when it comes to Abby and AJ, it's, you know, I ask, what would Caitlyn have wanted? What would Caitlyn have wanted in that situation? Not to be with Anthony, that's for sure. That's what she said, like, ruined the Christmas holiday, was him coming back. So why would she want them living with him? That would be her nightmare. And I'm going off of her own words. This isn't hearsay, speculation. Based on her own words, those kids being in his possession, she didn't word for word say it would be her nightmare, but it was implied multiple times. And they're living with him right now. She sold herself short. She was never just told how amazing she was. Could we talk about how Matthew could have saved her if he really cared? It's easy to win custody when your wife is a drug. Well, you know, I agree 1,000%. I agree 1,000% with you, Rochelle, about that. You can sue the F out of these trolls. She'd want them out of there. Exactly, John. She really would. She would be on video talking about it, is what she'd do. Because what can a 12-year-old do? That was her only access to the world. Since the psychiatrist, the quack of a doctor, didn't even take her seriously. You can't sue internet trolls, but if only. Rod, who is Bennis that I knocked out? Whew! I'll let him explain that one to you. Hi, Alicia. I didn't even realize you were in here. Alicia, you remind me so much of Caitlyn. Some of your photos even remind me of her. You'll have like the same big blue cosmic eyes and like, I don't know how to explain it. You have her same energy too. It's like a mix of like rock and punk and emo and but yet like girly beauty too. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but well, if they send death threat. Plus, you're super smart, Alicia. Like that video where you were speaking out about your mental health and everything, and how the mental health care treatments are a joke, and how you're almost like you're almost treated like worse by some of these so-called professionals. When they know you're vulnerable, they take advantage of it, some of them. And you, the way you articulated all of that and your experience was amazing. Like, seriously. And you did it in front of a live audience too, which in person, which kudos to you. And Caitlyn would have loved what you said. Caitlyn would have related to it. She would have been out in that audience cheering for you. Did you ever talk with Caitlyn personally, or oh no. I did not have the honor. Or did her story just captivate you like it did me? Yeah. Thank you. Some of these professionals I've seen are nuts. I'm glad that audience went and actually made something out of it. Thanks so much. Yes. Some of them, it's like you wonder, why did they want to work in the mental health field? Like, you know, it reminds me of teachers who become a teacher and then like a year within teaching, they get sexual with a student. It's like, why of all the professions did you choose that? How do you not take her seriously? She tried to end her life. It's inexcusable at that point. Yeah, I don't understand that either. I think it's because I feel like sometimes in order to work with somebody who is suicidal, I think it's important that you can relate to that in some way, because otherwise it's like a foreign concept, you know? It's like, I have anxiety with everything I do. Okay, so that would be like me giving advice on how to be super confident and not have any anxiety at all. It would be a joke. Like, it would make no sense. Like, I could have all the cliff notes. I could read all the books about it. I could publicly speak about it. But in the end, if I truly had to connect with somebody and treat them in a way that would make them feel confident, I would fail. And that's what these mental health professionals who are supposed to be helping suicidal people, a lot of them, to me, it's a similar thing, because they themselves have never been suicidal. So it's a foreign concept for them. They're advising these suicidal preteens and teenagers and young adults, but it's like they're just being like technical robots. It's like when you call the hotline and you're like, I want to die, and whatever. And this was my experience. And after 10 minutes, okay, it's been like 10 minutes. Are you good to go now? Like, it's like to them, it's like you almost can't blame them, because it is something that no matter how much you read up on, you have to have you have to be able to empathize on some level in order to truly help somebody like that. In order to, on a cerebral level in here, help them, you have to understand. And I think that's why so many people who are attracted to Caitlyn's story, it's because of relating to her feelings of suicide. And yeah, so that's part of her tragedy, is that nobody she was around could understand where she was coming from. Like, none of them. That professional who threw her Prozac just saw her as like, oh, it's a chemical imbalance. Take these pills. No, it wasn't a chemical imbalance. Like, she feels very deeply. And for those of you who are into astrology, she's also Pisces, which they are the rarest of all signs, and they feel the deepest of any sign, and they have the highest suicide rate, which I know not everybody believes that, and that's fine. But I mean, there were so many surrounding factors that led to her death. The fact that the psychiatrist just chalked it off to a chemical imbalance in the brain, are you freaking kidding me? Like, and even if she was straight out of a mansion and had like a great support system and everything, she was 12. If you're 12 and you're trying to end your life, there's nothing normal about that. It's not limited to a chemical imbalance in the brain, which they've actually debunked and said that's not even a true thing. It's more than likely the lens that a person is seeing out of. It's their perception that was molded by many different things, and it should be tended to with fragility and care, not some rigid instant thing like, take these pills. Are you joking? Like, that's if somebody said, Rich, you can go back in time and you can change 2 things about Caitlyn's life, I would say, okay, take Anthony out of the picture and take the pills out of the picture. That's what I would say. Oh, the Prozac, that makes me so mad. Kate fought as best she could against all that pressure from all sides, but she was just a kid. What does a child know? Still, her sad story became inspiration to many. Yes. Exactly. What does a child know? That's why when people leave hateful comments on her videos, it's like, you do realize you're talking about a child, right? Like, she said no one understands. And yeah, they say the basic human need more than anything that we need is to be understood, is to feel connection. Without that, we don't even want, the food and water is a basic need. But if we don't have a feeling of connection with anybody, we don't even want to eat or drink, which just proves how important that need for connection is. She needed more help from a better professional and a better family that can actually support her. Yes, she didn't need Prozac at all. I agree. I'd take Anthony and Luke out of the picture. I still wonder about trolls who talk to her online too, what they were saying. And, of all the things that Tammy didn't do, I would say monitoring her internet interactions was probably the most detrimental. It's about hyper comprehensive understanding and sensitivity. Most people don't understand that quality. I've been very fortunate. Hyper comprehensive understanding and sensitivity. She needed love, simple like that. Yeah. The story is not over, says Courtney. Yeah, she has two people, Abby and AJ, who are very much a part of her. One of whom actually saw her dying moment. And, well, not the moment she died, but post-mortem. And she's always going to be a part of them. That's why when people say, why even bother with Matt or Tammy or the kids? It's like, the kids are very much a part of Caitlyn. So I don't even understand that. Like, how people get frustrated if people want to inquire on the well-being of Caitlyn's favorite people. I mean, they were Caitlyn's favorite people. Love, care, and support. She needed to be a young lady, not a mom babysitting all the time. Yeah, I can only imagine the suffocation. The suffocation. She was such a creative person, too. Such a creative person. She needed to be able to let out that creativity how she wanted. And she would, when she'd sing and things like that, but it was always, and, Abby and AJ were kids. I'm not like targeting them or blaming them, but she had no space. Humans have to have space, like she never had space. She never had a moment to just breathe and collect herself. I think that the only time she did was when she was in the shower. But I say that loosely because, I mean, we know that when Tammy would try to shower, the kids were climbing all in there. And I have no reason to think it didn't happen when Caitlyn showered. So I don't know if she ever had privacy. I think that's why, because she made a Facebook post. She expressing that she was super excited to start school the next year. And I think that's partly because, one, she loved learning. And two, it got her out of that trailer. It was the only time she got out of the trailer and she did not have to be a babysitter. There will be justice for Caitlyn, Abby, and AJ. There will, says Alicia. Is it true that she wasn't completely gone once they took her down? Courtney, do you want to answer that? Because Courtney said she wasn't. Abby and AJ need to be saved from a pedo. Yeah, they do. She was alive when she was taken down. Died in the hospital at 6 p.m. Yeah, one of her siblings witnessed it. AJ. And he was telling the grandma about things he remembers from that night that he saw. And he would cry and he would have, crying fits about it. And I'm really interested to see how AJ and Abby over the years, because in about half a decade, they're going to be at the age where it's not going to be uncommon for them to be online. They definitely should be monitored when they're online, but it's not going to be uncommon. And so I am curious to see how they express themselves and, what their talents are and like what their interests are and if, what they have in common with Caitlyn. For some people who saw the video, they were glad they didn't actually witness Caitlyn's death. That video where AJ was screaming and Tammy was scolding her is just unbearable. Yeah. It is unbearable. I've actually, in the past, when I was first coming across those, and I didn't really know what I was in for because Caitlyn in the beginning was just talking a lot. And it got to the point where Tammy did start screaming and all that, and my son walked in the room and he was like, "Oh my God, what is that?" And I had to turn it off because it's startling, you know, it's startling. I've never seen such determination as I did while she was preparing her noose. Yeah, it was a totally different energy from her in that moment. Determination is a good word to use, because it's like she was just in this wall of this box rather of determination. Nothing was going to get through the box. And although I say that, but at the same time, she streamed for so long that somebody could have intervened if they had called 911, somebody who was watching, if they had, like, if she wasn't in the boonies and like, and there was a, you know, a neighbor like within a certain amount of feet from her trailer that would have seen everything unfolding, if the cars passing by weren't blocked with trees, if so many ifs. Again, if she were in a neighborhood, somebody could have been walking their dog nearby or something. Like, yeah. There were tons of people telling her in the darkest moments, telling her to do it. I know. Telling her to do it. You know, that's why and I've told my children this too. When you're sad, even if you're not at the level where like you just don't want to be here anymore or anything like that. Like if you're just sad, like you can't trust people no matter how friendly they are. You cannot trust them to have your best interest. Because when you're that vulnerable, again, it doesn't matter how friendly someone is, they could use that opportunity to push you over the edge. As we saw with Michelle Carter, the girl who supposedly loved her boyfriend, but then when he was feeling suicidal, talked him into doing it. You know? You never know. You never really know if a person is like a sociopath or not. Because unless they're in a position, like, it's not that often that people are in positions like that. So there were tons of people trolling her in her darkest moments, telling her to do it. Sickening. Jeffrey and the a-holes at KB to help. When Tammy took away her phone. Yeah, when Tammy took away her phone. That wasn't very long, though. She had an incredible charisma. She could entertain dozens of people in their lives for several minutes. Yet she always complained of bullying, who also suffered at school. Yes, I think, you know, what you just said about her charisma, I think all the bullying was from jealousy. You know, you always hear of, like, overweight kids being bullied or disfigured kids being bullied or nerds being bullied, but what about the pretty girl? You know, we know the main reason she was probably bullied was because she was pretty. She steadied herself from swinging. She grabbed her shirt so she would pry at the rope. Yeah, that... that part of the video was just... I know exactly what you're talking about, Mama Heather. A.B. Tariq was the worst of them all. Yeah. He epitomizes sociopathy, for sure. Yeah, she was bullied at school. She had even drawn like a picture. And see, this is where everything was being so twisted with her, because she had drawn a picture of the boy who was bullying her, and she drew a picture like with a knife, and the psychiatrist interpreted that as like her killing the bully. And You know, that's also when she was sleeping with knives under her bed. She was living with Anthony. I mean, come on. Like, those people who were egging her on to commit suicide. Sorry, my screen is flicking, by the way. Those people who are egging her on to commit suicide, they have to live with their conscience now. They don't have one, though, or they would not have done it to begin with. You know, that's how when people say, like, yeah, let's hope that in Luke's jail cell there's a photo of Caitlyn, or people like, it wouldn't affect them at all, or else they wouldn't have been able to do what they did to begin with. I bet they were jealous. She's drop dead gorgeous. I show people her picture, and the highest age guest was 28. Yeah, she is. And that's what scares me about Anthony with these new daughters of his. Ugh, even just saying that. I swear, have you seen them, Alicia, on Facebook? His new wife that he married in November, her 3 daughters, they have a similar radiance to them as Caitlyn, and it's frightening to know that they're living with him. And Abby's underwear are completely exposed in that photo. She doesn't have pants on. She's sitting on the couch with the new siblings of his new wife, or the new kids of his new wife, which are AJ's new sibling, or Abby's new sibling, sorry. And just, I don't understand. Caitlyn threatened to break her phone, and she's determined. You could hear it in her. You're a visitor, so I can see her. No, it's okay. It's okay, Mama Heather. Teachers bullied her also. I believe it. I believe it. I don't want to make this about me, but I have reason to believe that. Caitlyn said she wasn't good enough for Luke. That's infuriating. He probably said some very manipulative things to her. Again, why her phone needs data recovery. I will never wrap my head around that. What was the point of them taking the phone just for giggles as a prop to have on their shelf if they were never going to look into it? Polk County disgusts me to the core. Has anyone gotten arrested for this? No. Nope. Alicia, exactly. She was pretty and they were filled with envious hate. Yep. Anthony shouldn't even be allowed around females. I agree. Many teachers are DICKSs. They have issues because they couldn't get their dream jobs. Yeah, and they don't have patience for children either. Like, that's what I don't get. They don't have patience for kids. Or they're jealous of their students for, having youth. I worked at my kids' school. I saw it firsthand as an adult now, working in a school, how some of these teachers almost have this jealousy toward their students. It's like they look at the students as a burden. Hey, Bob. Sorry I'm late. Fighting with track phone. And hi, Celeste. Hi to a few other people. She could care for Caitlyn. Oh, thank you, Bobby. Bobby's one of the people who talks about Caitlyn all the time. I wish I could have helped her. Yeah, don't we all? Teachers are bullies too. All my teachers are bullies. I'm glad you said it because I didn't want to be the one to revert it back to myself. But yeah, same here. I still have a very vivid memory of Mrs. Tutlis in 3rd grade, pulling me up in front of the class, putting her long witch fingernail into my shirt and saying that she could see my breasts, even though you couldn't. And it was one of the only tops that I had. I didn't choose my clothes at that age. My mother did. She wanted to dress me like that. And it was humiliating. And she also would slam the books down on this boy named Max. His name was Max, but she would go, "Oh, Maximilian, let me guess, you didn't do your homework again today, did you?" And in front of everybody, she would take these books and slam them on his desk. And she'd be like, "Get up." And she would talk to him like trash. Guess what? He committed suicide in 7th grade. His name was Max Durham. And I'm not saying she's the reason, but, I'm sure she didn't help, obviously. You never know what these kids are going through. You never know what kind of tornado they just stepped out of before going to school. These are children here. Why haven't they recovered her data? You mean to tell me they haven't touched one thing? Nope. No. Even though she was in her phone the hours, the minutes, hours leading up to her death. And Anthony Rogers, even though he had never been on her account ever before that, found it important in the hours after she was found hanging to sign on to her Facebook and defend himself and delete stuff. Really makes you wonder what he sent her. If in person he was saying, "You worthless whore, I'll buy the rope for you to kill yourself with," really makes you wonder what he said in writing to her in the minutes before she killed herself. That is assault. No one should be able to touch you. Yeah, I agree. I spent the first year of grade school in the hall and was still advanced to second grade. I had a teacher smack me in the head because I didn't know an answer in third grade. That is disgusting. I'm sorry you went through that. I'm glad you know that it was wrong. What I love is the number of people who have been saved from the clutches of suicide because of Caitlyn's videos and are shining light of kindness. Yes, because when for me anyway, it's like when you feel like everyone hates, because for me it's like when I feel like everybody hates me, it doesn't matter what they say, everybody hates me. It just doesn't matter. Everybody hates me. I think of how Caitlyn felt the same way, but it was only because she hadn't met her people yet. She hadn't met the people who not only would have understood her, but would have loved her and liked her and joined her on this adventure of life. Like, if she had just known that darkness in her tunnel, you know, had a detour to where the light was, but she couldn't see it, you know? Like, that's what helps me when I feel that way, is like, you know, who knows? Maybe I'm just not seeing everything for what it is. Some people shouldn't be teachers. I wish Chris Hansen had been involved. Exposing Anthony would be amazing. Some people should. Chris Hansen on YouTube. Damn, I'm glad you got justice. That's a great idea about Chris Hansen. You're an angel for those who need to see how to deal with it. My daughter needs to know. Your daughter? How old is your daughter? It seems like nothing is ever going to be done. I agree, Rick. Things are in the works. It's not over. Poor thing, reached on the internet and all she found were pervs. I know. It is blood boiling. She needed more time. This girl was yet to meet the people who would advocate for her happiness and well-being. Those people are supposed to be your family, but not everyone is that fortunate. Caitlyn has brought so many people together and built amazing relationships. She really has. She really has. Like, if you were to look at the planet Earth and you were to do like a visual of all the continents and you were to like branch out like arrows connecting all the connections, and then with those connections, all of the interconnections, it would be fully covered and continuous. And those connections would be in bold red because of how strong they are. They'd be glowing. The only person who could have been arrested for her death was Luke Callahan. The video that Caitlyn said that Anthony touched her was only hearsay. And, you know, Tammy did file a report on that. They came to the house and they have written reports about that. But here's the kicker. Again, when it comes to Anthony, there are many kickers and literal ones, since he was threatening to kick everybody and punch them and kill them. When the report was filed and Caitlyn and Tammy both spoke to police and said what he was doing, that's all they did. They didn't go investigate Anthony. This is why people feel like he was an informant for that department, that police department. Or they just feel like the misogyny there is so strong that that's why these like men were like, well, he's a hardworking man, you know, and this woman, she's addicted to her pills, and this is just some emo kid with too much eye makeup on, wearing low-cut shirts. So, you know, I'm going to believe Anthony. I'm not even going to bother talking to him. They didn't even investigate him. They didn't sit him down. You know, where I am here in Minnesota, what they would have done is they would have said, sir, we need to take you in for questioning. We have a report filed on you about sexual assault on a minor. That's what they would have done. And if they excused it, they would have excused it. And if they didn't, they would have dug deeper. But either way, they would have addressed the person in question. They wouldn't just take a report on something so serious, especially when not long before that, the child in question tried to kill herself and then just gone their merry way. That's how have they no shame? Especially those who knew Caitlyn's fate, knew that she ended up killing herself. How did none of these people speak out? How did none of these people have regret? 17 minutes and 3 years ago, Caitlyn took her last breath. I hated school, but hated home even more. I think you and Caitlyn had that in common. My daughter would, oh, that's really sweet, Michelle. Wish I was there to stop her or contact someone. Down here is this in the South, the system of good old boy system. Yep, I know exactly what you're talking about. I feel very bad that I couldn't do anything to help her, especially in smaller towns. I remembered seeing that video. I cried my eyes out. Cheryl, you're very strong. You were awesome. Rochelle is right. Honestly, the people who were watching the live stream of her killing herself, it disgusted me how they just watched and probably did not do anything about it. Remy, you're right. You know, people can share anti-bullying memes online as much as they want. And I think that's great. You know, I'm not discrediting that. But the best way to be anti-bullying is when you're faced, or not just anti-bullying, anti-suicide. When you're faced with that, to be proactive. I mean, people think that if they, like, a lot of people do escapism in those moments. Like, if someone is like, I want to die, I want to die, they just, it's like, oh, click away. Or it's like, if they're faced with that in person, it's like, it's too much for them. But, you know, sometimes the simplest utterance of, but it would really hurt me if you left this world, or anything along those lines, just that simple. Letting the person know that they are valued and that it would hurt you if they left. There's actually a 14-year-old boy. He goes by Sean, but that's not his real name. And he's been feeling very suicidal. He lives in Brazil, and he's a sweetheart. He is so sweet, and he's so talented, and he reminds me a lot of Caitlyn, believe it or not, even though he's a boy and he lives in Brazil. And the main thing he needs from me and others is reassurance. He's constantly asking for reassurance, and he feels so much better when he's reminded that he's valued. And he actually asked me recently, you know, if I died, would it make anybody sad? Like, would anybody even care? That's a real thought that people who are suicidal have, you know? We have learned to watch out for our neighbors, kids on the internet, and every other human everywhere. We must be more kind. That's so true. And Courtney, you practice that even when you're faced with the opposite of kindness. Even when you're faced with death threats, you're still kind. That's the true test of kindness, because it's easy to be kind around people who are like in a good mood. You know, that's super easy. Caitlyn sure was amazing. People like this in the chat are the 99 reasons I have trust issues, are one of the 99 reasons I have trust issues. Yeah. Oh yeah, my mom told me about this. Oh, Remy. The value of life, our own especially. The value of life. And two, you know, the main thing that people who want to die, that's just it. It's not that they want to die necessarily. It's not that they want to terminate. It's that they want to pause. They want to escape. They feel kicked and pulled and shoved in all directions. They just want blackness and silence, and they don't want to have to exist for that moment. But that's not necessarily permanent termination. But that's the only way they can see an escape in that moment. And so it is incredibly important to also remind people who are suicidal that one day that blackness, that darkness, that silence, death, it's a part of all of us. Every single one of us is going to die. But making it happen sooner than later is not necessary, because it's going to happen regardless. And I feel like there should be, how there are ERs for a person if they're like super sick? There should be mental health style ERs where instead of having to kill yourself, you can just go to escape for a minute, and get validated. I don't mean like escape into the woods and like be out in nature, which, yeah, that's healthy. But I mean like where you can escape and you can have like nurses, like mental health nurses, validate your pain. You know how like if you're super sick and you go to the ER and the nurse is like, I'm so sorry, here, take this pain relief. I'm sorry, baby. I hope you feel better. How that kind of makes you feel a little better. Like it's even been proven your heart rate will slow down if you're panicking, if a nurse comforts you. They should have something like that for a mental health style ER place, like where the nurse, looks into your eyes and listens to you, just hears you, lets you cry, lets you say that you want to die. But it's not like you're looked at like a crazy person. It's not like you're checked into some clinic and you're seen as a defected, label of some sort. Because life is valuable. What you said really stuck with me. Life is very valuable. And it loses its value, though, when all life feels like is a punishment. They don't always want to die. They are unbearable pain. Exactly. It's kind of like if someone's, let's say your arm is in so much pain and you don't know what's wrong with it. And oh my God, I can't even pick up this lip gloss because my arm is hurting so much. Let's say it's so bad that it's making me cry and I can't take it anymore. In that moment, I might for a brief second think of cutting off my arm. But what I really would want is for my arm to be repaired. That's what I would actually want. And that's what Caitlyn wanted. That's why she live streamed for so long before she did in her life. Because she didn't actually want to be gone forever. Otherwise, she would have done it instantly. She would have walked in front of a car. She wouldn't have live streamed that long. She didn't want her life to be cut off. She wanted it to be repaired. And nobody was willing to do that for her. Professionals would call her sick and throw her pills. The teachers would bully her. Classmates would bully her. The family would torture her. The mom wasn't even all there to hear her. It was just a mix of too much. Do you ever think of what you would do if you just happened to be there when Caitlyn was having her problems and of them particular final moments? What I would have done is I immediately would have scoured the internet for Live Me's, because they do have like emergency numbers. Like Live Me has a 1-800 number that you can call that's like always has an operator, and they would have been able to track the local whatever through her IP on that live stream and called the police. That's what they would have been able to do. And I know that because there have been cases where on Live Me, underage girls have been like stripping and stuff like that. And then on their live, police have barged in at the door, knocked at the door. And it's because there was actually a normal person in the audience who contacted Live Me. I wouldn't have reported the live stream because then that would have gotten it kicked off and then they wouldn't have been able to figure out where she was. What I would have done is I would have immediately contacted police or contacted Live Me. Or, and in the chat, you know, obviously from the get-go, I would have, everything we've talked about Caitlyn in this chat, I would have told her, you know, about how, and even if I had just met her that second, I would have asked her what's causing her so much pain, first of all. I would have wanted her to talk about it. Because that's what a person really wants to do. That's why she talked about it all the time. It's just that it fell on deaf ears. It fell on perverted ears who didn't care about what she was saying, who didn't care about all the screaming and like insanity they were witnessing in that household. All they cared about was her taking her clothes off. Unreal what Caitlyn went through over the course of December with Luke and the other pedos. Yeah. The other pedos. And they knew that she was underage because even though she didn't say she was 12, she still said she was 13. And that's disgusting. Well, I'm glad that you found us too. I would have tried to talk her out of it after contacting. Is it flickering for y'all? Because it's flickering for me. After contacting authorities, if I was there. Yep, same here. All of the videos she posted were red flags. Someone should have said something long before December 30th of 2016. I agree. I don't understand. I mean, she would stream for hours and hours and hours. That just goes to show you the type of audience that Live Me gets. Perverted men and people who are so young that it's hard, you know, like I'm talking 9, 10 kids that are so young that when they saw what Caitlyn was talking about, they couldn't even rationalize just how wrong everything was because they're in their own little, you know, child world. But Caitlyn grew up very fast because she had to. She was a little lamb trapped in a cage full of hungry savages. No escape. Yeah. I am covering the Bianca Devins case extensively. I don't know who Bianca is. Is that a child? So, what was it? I've got some self-care cards. I'm gonna pull 2 for Abby and AJ. I just want to see what they get. This one's gonna be for Abby. What self-care she especially needs right now. This is for Abby. Oh, that was the package one. I'm going to keep going. That's the blank one from the package. Tenderness. Oh my gosh. And it has a little girl that looks like Abby and then a brunette girl looking at her. And it says tenderness. And it says, speak gently to yourself. Cherish the child within. So that's Abby's. Okay, so now I'm going to do AJ's self-care card. I'm going to put this aside so he doesn't get the same one. Or you know what? No, I'm going to put it in because maybe he needs the same one. I'm shuffling them. This one's for AJ. He got dance. Step into the light. Share your gifts and talents with the world. Is he in any extracurricular stuff? Is AJ in like a sport, or is he in dance? Wouldn't that be something if he ends up being a dancer? That would actually be something. He liked to dance with Caitlyn. I know that. He loved dancing with Caitlyn. He probably does need to dance. I think that would make him feel very good. He loved dancing with Caitlyn. Undoubtedly. I agree. You're so sweet, Remy. I originally told Remy I did not want her a part of all this, but we have talked about it, and I keep it pretty PG. So, even though she was past. Hey, Rye. Her personality was incredible. I can tell you right now, I can't name a single other 12-year-old that I would hang out with other than Caitlyn. I know, same here. Other than my son, who my son is actually very precocious like Caitlyn. Oh, it's been you this whole time, Ryder? I really appreciate, not just me, everyone appreciates all of the artwork and poems and blogs, like our friend Nikki, who also goes by Alyssa Diabasi, I believe. She has a YouTube channel. She's shared a really sweet blog about Caitlyn today. A lot of you have been sharing such beautiful photos and drawings, and I have a friend Shay who's an artist, and she shared such beautiful paintings of Caitlyn that she whipped up in like a day. It was amazing. So many of you. With his dab, yes. AJ would dab with Caitlyn. And they, in the den, and it wasn't even just her recent live streams. There's an older video that came up that one of the family members shared around the holidays in front of a Christmas tree. And AJ, again, and Caitlyn were just going cuckoo dancing. Was she bipolar? I feel like psychiatrists, ultimately what they do is they practice what I call symptomology, because they're not in your head. They're not in your life. They don't really know what's fully going on. They're just going off of your symptoms. So Caitlyn was traumatized is what she was, and she was abused. Everything else is just symptomology. She was super smart, that's for sure. I didn't see any mania, sorry. I didn't see any mania in her videos of all the hours that she live streamed, and that's usually a trademark of bipolar. Yeah, her mother had another baby. I talked earlier in the stream about the status of her mother, but your candle is lit. That's very sweet. Caitlyn was, in my view, a precursor to Bianca. Really? She much more authentic, genuine, and less mentally unhinged. Check out the cake. I am not aware of Bianca at all, but I feel like I should be. If Tammy does have another child, I hope they get taken away. Tammy shouldn't have kids. Well, the child I don't think is with her right now. Should see I'm writing one. Yeah, I think Caitlyn was smarter than all of her. Oh, absolutely, Bobby. Oh my goodness, yes. Absolutely. So it is now 5:40 where I am, and I can hear my children running around. They were being watched, but the fact that they joined this chat shows that I need to go down there. So I do need to go, but I recommend you joining the Katelyn Nicole Davis groups on Facebook, because you will be connected to people who feel just like you do. Dateliner 2020 should do a show. I don't understand why they haven't. I do not understand. I don't get it. Oh, never mind. I hear their dad right now getting after them, so I can hear their dad. Oh, he did. He loved dancing with Caitlyn. He did. I have also blessing cards on what to be thankful for. And I'm also going to pull them for Abby and AJ because why not? They definitely have blessings, despite all of the trauma that will probably be with them for the rest of their lives. I'm going to pull a blessing card for them. So this one is for, I'm going to go first with Abby again, since I went first with her last time. So this is for Abby. I'm just shuffling them. The breath of spirit is what this is for Abby. The breath of spirit. It says, I am unique for the good of the universe to flow into the world. As I listen and respond to my inner guidance, I bring to the world originality and opportunity. I have a unique healing presence, which blesses those who know me. And that's why I can't wait to get to know Abby. Like, I don't even mean personally necessarily, although that would be awesome. But I'm talking about just if she has an online presence like Caitlyn, I really can't wait to see how she, you know, emotionally blossoms and how she expresses herself and all of that. Okay, now this one is for AJ. So let's give him a blessing card. Let's see one of his blessing cards. And by the way, Sherry, thanks again for moderating my chat. I really appreciate it. So this is for AJ. Safe and secure. That's for AJ. The heart of God holds all in safety. In times of separation from those I love, I remind myself that all of us are held safely in the heart of God. I ask God to touch those I love with healing grace and compassion. Wow. So his card is talking about in times of separation from those I love. I remind myself that all of us are held safely. That is really sad. I'm just putting them up. That was really sad. I'm live streaming. Please shut the door. That might have been the cat, honestly, because my cat opens up my door. Yes, Shay's paintings were incredible. Oh, you're welcome. She was a singer and an actress and an artist. Justice uploaded his blocked people list. It's 4 minutes long. I hope the Justice channel creator finds inner peace. I have a candle lit. It's a green scented pine. Ooh, I think Caitlyn would have liked that. She was very smart. It's so sad that I heard she did not die immediately. Ugh. Didn't you label yourself an ex-KND member? Weird. Come join us. Yeah, Courtney is in the chat saying which group on Facebook to join. Well, she doesn't care which group you join, but she's recommending one. It's the Katelyn Nicole Davis Community and Justice Movement, KND. I have to go. Thanks for the fellowship in memory of Caitlyn, all of you. It means a lot. Thanks for all you do, and thank you, Caitlyn, for saving my life. I'll never forget. Oh, John, that is so sweet. And that's what Caitlyn wanted to do. You saw her videos where she would give reasons not to kill yourself. That's what she wanted to do. So she would relish in knowing what you just said. Caitlyn will always watch over those who use her name and memory in a good way. I believe that. Kiggles. The condition she was living was just temporary, and she just felt like she couldn't get out of her situation. She wasn't going to be living in a trailer on a mattress in a cold room forever. You're right. And I hope everybody else who feels as she did knows that. He blew up a few months ago and started attacking us alongside Roberto. Yeah, definitely join the group. Definitely join the group. You know, the one card deck I didn't do for Abby and AJ yet is the, not the self-care, sorry. It's the Power of Surrender deck. I did the others. These are actually my favorite cards, but I don't really feel like they could apply to a child because it's more, you know what? No, I'm going to still, you never know. The other cards were like magically perfect for Abby and AJ, so I want to do it again. So this is the surrender deck, which is something they should surrender to that'll help them, you know, help them in life. So this one's going to be for, Abby. Because I always go first with Abby. It's just how I started doing it. So, surrender to prayer is what Abby got. So give yourself over completely to prayer. When you pray from your heart, you will be heard throughout the universe, and answers and support will arrive. And that's the back side. And then that's the front. It's a girl praying. So that's Abby's, which I imagine she does. Because no matter the chaos and abuse from Anthony and whomever else, or if she feels ignored and not heard, she can always close her eyes and ask for things in her own way, however she wants, in her mind, in the privacy of her mind. So this one is for AJ. So this is the power of surrender. This is something he could surrender to that'll help him. So surrender worry. Make a commitment not to lead an anxiety-driven life. When worries arise, breathe them out of your body. Focus on the power of your heart and have faith that Spirit is guiding you always. And it shows a girl on a swing. Surrender worry. That's for AJ. Yeah, I agree. So, I'm just having a moment of silence, thinking about her. It's like that stepfather one, because he told her to kill herself, and so she did that. It makes me mad because she was a strong, beautiful girl. Oh, it makes me mad too. I hate him. I hate Anthony Lee Rogers. I think a lot of his hatred also stemmed from the fact that when he tried to touch her, not only she didn't do like a lot of little girls would have done, you know, she didn't like internalize it or like let him go along with it or like, you know, run away from the situation. She outed him, and he, from that moment on, decided to be revengeful to her. He took all of her sadness and vulnerabilities and used them as ammo. Why else would he call her a whore too? She didn't do anything whorish. It doesn't even make sense. That's usually what men will call women who they want but can't have. What kind of man calls a 12-year-old a whore? That's not a man. That's a sick person. The irony in him calling her sick. I didn't know her personally, but I watched her lives a lot, her live streams a lot. Well, I'm not the moderator. Thank y'all so much, Gypsy, Alicia, and Sherry. You're doing an amazing job, Sherry. I've actually had people, when other people have live streamed and I've been in their chats, I've had people make me a mod and I had to like opt out because I could not keep up with it. So thank you so much. I will see you around. Thank you. Bye, Rochelle. Thank you so much for joining the chat and sharing your thoughts. Courtney, same here. My chest is red. Like you can't see it. My chest is red. And I am, those cards, especially the first one that I pulled for Abby, that one really tore me. And the one for AJ about separation. Yeah. It's a permanent solution to a temporary problem. Yep. Yep. But you know, when you want to escape so badly, the problem doesn't feel temporary. The problem feels like that's all you're going to be dealt with your entire life, you know? It just looks like a dark abyss of just pain with no end, you know? There's no boundary or there's no line around it. That's what... So it does feel like a permanent problem, even though it's not. Exactly. Support will arrive. Just imagine if Caitlyn had come to in the hospital and all of us got to know her just as we do now through her live streams, but she were alive. I feel like she would be doing kind of like what you did, Alicia, but instead of talking about the mental health stuff, it would be her experience with suicide and how she would be able to tell everybody, you know what? I found my people. There are people who understood me. There are people who understood me, but I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I was lied to online. I was catfished in the worst way. I was violated online in every way, not just not just emotionally, but also physically violated. You know, I was sexualized. The people who were supposed to love me, not only did they not love me, but they hated me. Or they ignored me. But here I am now because I didn't die, and I don't want y'all to either. I feel like that's what Caitlyn would be doing. Because that's kind of what she did before she left. You know, we all give advice, but we don't always take our own advice that we give other people. Well, I gotta go fix dinner. I hope you keep this. So no, you can't be live forever, but I hate to miss it. Once again, thank you. Oh, thank you, Gypsy. Thank you so much for sticking around. So, I also actually do need to go because it's been a while since I've been away from my children right now. I mean, their dad is with them, but I didn't realize it was dinner time until you said that, Gypsy. Well, actually, I mean, if I'm being completely honest, we don't really have a dinner time, but I know they're going to be hungry. So I can't imagine going through all that BS at that age. When you're a child, every problem seems 20 times bigger. Yes, John, that is so true. I was just talking about like how even though it's a temporary problem, it feels like it's a never-ending problem. And yeah, and when you're young, it's even enhanced. You know, like I've done some things in the last year in terms of my anxiety that I never would have done as a teenager or a preteen. Like for instance, I went and auditioned for a play, even though I've never acted in my whole life. And as a preteen, at Caitlyn's age, actually, my anxiety was so bad, I wouldn't even put my lunch tray up because I didn't want to have to walk past all the tables of kids. So instead, I would get in trouble every single day because I'd leave my lunch tray on the table and I'd run back to the class. And like, but that's because at that age, like you said, John, everything is enhanced. So any bad look somebody gives, any rude remark somebody gives, it feels like the end of the world. Because, you know, as we get older, our perception expands. Unless we stay sheltered in a bubble, our perception expands. And so we're able to see the ins and outs to things. We're able to see the flip side to things better because our perception is growing. But when you're that little, when you're that young, you don't have all that perception, no matter how smart you are. So in your mind, that's in your perception that's much smaller, and it's blossoming, but it's much smaller, any mean remark can take up your entire perception. You know, whereas now at my age, yeah, it still hurts very, very much. Like I got this very cruel email yesterday from someone online in the community named Benedict. And I was, even though it hurt me very, very much, I was able to put that cruelty in a corner in my head where it was still, it was, instead of, for instance, my whole body being on fire, it was like one little piece was burning a little bit. Whereas when you're a child, that will take over, you know. So I fully get that. Pedos are abusive in all ways and play mind games. They name call victims, trying to lower self-esteem and force submission to make it easier. It's a sign he did more than try to do unspeakable things to Caitlyn. Oh, I agree fully. That's why I want to know what is in her phone. I want to know what he said to her in her last moments that made her shut the door to the trailer and walk out there like this on a mission. I want to know why he signed onto her account when he had never done it before, why he signed on it in the hours after she was found hanging and defended himself on her account and deleted stuff. But leave it to Polk County to not do a single thing with it, to not look into it. The same reason they didn't look into Anthony when Caitlyn and Tammy filed a police report on him for sexual assault on a minor. Because guess what? They don't care. Oh, yes, we do. We care very much. No, you don't. Care is not just an adjective, okay? It's also a verb. And they didn't do anything to show that they cared, and they still haven't. It took Boston police to arrest Luke, not Polk County. It's good to know that Caitlyn will always be remembered because of people. Thanks for continuing. I'm glad people want to remember her. It shows that the importance of hanging on longer to your life and remembering that it does have value and not to define yourself by how others make you feel. You are not what others make you feel. So if others make you feel like crap, that doesn't mean you are crap. If others make you feel worthless, that doesn't mean you are worthless. If others make you feel ugly, that doesn't mean you are ugly. You know? Sorry, my thing keeps flicking. It's all like, for me, it's like making my whole screen flick. Thank you, Heather. Thank you. I wish I could give you a like reward, Sherry, for moderating my chat because you really helped exterminate some rodents. Thank you, John. You're well spoken too. Anthony switched her name to Rock. Yes! Yes! I don't understand that either. What is your name? Oh, I'm sorry. ILNVKLRK something. Yeah, I agree. That is wacko. Makes no sense. Why did Anthony last second change her name from Katelyn Nicole Davis to Katelyn Nicole Rogers? Why do you think he did? Sherry is a real one. Let's all clap. For real. Thank you, Sherry. Thank you so much. She was excited for a new stepdad in the beginning. Yeah, you could see it in the photos. I agree. And I don't blame her. I would have been too, because her other dad, her real dad, I don't want to bash on my kid's dad right now, but, you know, I understand the Warcraft addiction. Well, I don't understand it, but I've witnessed it firsthand, and it's frightening. Hiding evidence? You think so? Deleting the other streams, probably. She streamed over 50 videos, but we only have access to 38. Yes, I want to know about that too. And, you know, I know y'all already know this, so I'm just saying, FBI has all these different, and not just FBI, but different sects of the police. They have all these different units. They have some units that are for like circumstantial evidence, some that, as y'all know, is for like DNA evidence, some that is for physical evidence, some that is for verbal evidence, verbal interrogations, cross-examinations. And then there's another unit that is solely for what they call computer forensics, okay? And it's not just for computers, it's pretty much any electronic device. So it encompasses phones also. So when they took her phone, okay, and they tried to say it was because when I called up, and my Caitlyn friends, they've heard the conversation I had with the police. When I called up and asked why nothing was done with the phone, they said because of lack of funding. They said that per device, it costs like, what was it? How much was it per device? It was pretty hefty. I know it was over 1,000, I believe. And, but still, it's a police department. I mean, what was the point of taking our phone? So what they should have done was they should have transferred the evidence, which they can do, to Chicago. I mean, not Chicago, to Atlanta. Atlanta would have had more than enough funds to have looked into her phone. Then Anthony would have been arrested. I have no doubt about that. And possibly other men too. Possibly people living in other countries who were uploading night course stuff and, you know, who talked to vulnerable underage girls and tried to have them commit suicide. Possibly other people, not just Anthony. If I didn't have 3 kids to take care of, I'd track the stepdad down and make him pay. Oof. You sound like my friend Cherokee. Yeah, screw Polk County Police and raging. Yeah, what other than pulling people over and doing drug busts? What are they doing? They have no business taking on criminal investigations at all, or investigations that center around sexual abuse on children, since they ignored Tammy and Caitlyn's police report on Anthony. They have no business taking charge of that, because they don't take charge of it. They have no business having power over that, because they don't use it. Their badges are a joke. I could go to Party City right now and put on a police uniform, and I feel like we all in this chat would do more than they do. That's all they're doing, is wearing costumes. And the blood is on their hands, and CPS's hands, and all of the professionals in that community, if anything happens to Abby and AJ, because they have more than enough evidence to know that they should not be with Anthony right now. And it was just, what was it? Was it the beginning of this year or last year that Anthony's teenage daughter was talking about him touching her also recently? That's not just hearsay. So you know, what is it going to take? He's a repeat offender. Bobcat theory. Katie had proof of drug dealing. Her hope was to end the nightmare, but he figured it out and forced the password and deleted her proof. He may have deleted certain pics or videos too. Well, that's definitely a theory. That could definitely be a theory. I just found out about Caitlyn and now I'm crying because I've attempted multiple times and I wish I could have helped her somehow. Well, I'm glad that you're still here. And as you see, even though Caitlyn felt like everybody hated her and that nobody would accept her for who she was and that she was a freak and all kinds of stuff that were the complete opposite of what she was, that's, you know, she didn't meet people who understood her yet. So that goes for you too. I'm not sure who you are, but okay. So he did change the name to Rogers, the F? Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Alicia. Why has no one changed it back to Davis? I think he's the only one with her password. He said that, like, well, see, he was so controlling, though. He would demand that he had the password to things, and he would try to do it out of the guise of looking like a protective dad. But we all know that that was a bunch of BS. He was never monitoring her stuff until it was going to be investigated. Wow. Sean, she would not want you to do that, Sean. That would actually kill her. She would not want you to take your life. That would kill her. That would make her feel like all of her legacy and all the stuff she ever said was not understood. Why didn't the Polk County DA push for a conviction of some kind for at least the crime of molestation? Exactly. It makes no sense, Crockett. Tammy and Caitlyn, about a month before her final day, filed a police report against Anthony for sexual assault on a minor. And they interviewed Caitlyn and they interviewed Tammy, but they never interviewed Anthony. It makes zero sense. Sean, you do not need to define yourself by how useful you are. You're perfectly useful just being you. Bottom line, Caitlyn would want you to be happy. Bottom line. They took the bucket. She stood on the noose. Surely they can do stuff with the phone. Exactly. But it just sat there collecting dust. And that man had no problem letting me know that. Well, he didn't say it was collecting dust, but essentially that's what it was doing. Was just sitting there. Sadly, a lot of parents are terrible, abusive pieces of SHIT, and it sucks. I know that someday, though, it will get better and the world will be a better place. I sure hope you're right. You'll be with her one day, Sean, when your time comes. You will die, and I will die, and all of us in this chat will die. And we will get to see Caitlyn, possibly. But right now, it would kill her for you to do it sooner than it's supposed to happen. She didn't take AJ and Abby with her because she loved them and she wanted them to live. Hi, James. You comment a lot. You've been in the community for a really long time. Sherry is saying, like, don't end your life right now, is what she's saying. So I could actually come back later and I could resume this. Happy New Year, James. I also want to say on the Happy New Year comment that this is a really hard time for a lot of people. Even those who've not met Caitlyn, it's been proven that like suicide rates skyrocket around this time of year. And, you know, it's that contrast of like joyful holiday and people gathering with family and being so happy that really makes the contrast just glow when you're feeling depressed. So when I say Happy New Year, I'm not saying like, oh, I hope it's happy and perfect. I hope you're coping is what I hope. I hope that, again, that you know that you are not defined by how people make you feel. You are not defined by how people make you feel. By the looks they give you, by the rejection they throw your way, by how they ignore you. That does not define who you are at all. Or the evil trolls online, the crap they say to you, that doesn't define who you are. This is the angelversary of Caitlyn. Let's not talk about killing ourselves. We are all super upset about her circumstance. Sean, trust me, she wouldn't want you to do this. I lost a friend to suicide, and she's one of the main reasons I haven't committed suicide, because she wanted me to have a good life. Caitlyn would want you to have a good life too. Exactly. If this is how I see it too. If you love Caitlyn, do what would make her happy. Not what would kill her. Not what would make her depressed. You know? But I was gonna say, it is, dinner time now. And I haven't been, my kids are being watched and stuff. It's just that I want to be around them before they go to bed, which they go to bed in a few hours. Well, actually in a couple hours. But I can definitely come back tonight and resume this. Me and Caitlyn share the same zodiac sign, Pisces. Yes, y'all sure are. Y'all actually, Pisces is like my favorite sign. But I really hate myself at this point. And you know what? Believe it or not, hating yourself is a part of life. I hate to say it. Some of the best people in this world hate themselves. Some of the worst people in this world think they're perfect. Really. Caitlyn hated herself. We all know she shouldn't have hated herself. We all know that had she just held out longer, she would have realized what an amazing person she was. Caitlyn literally begged the world to live, love, and get help. Yes, and to get help. Everyone is in the yearly recap phase. Don't compare yourself to others. If staying alive was your only achievement, then that's a win. Yes, definitely. If getting out of bed is your only achievement. If lying in bed and, not ending your life is your only achievement. Pretty much what you said, Heather. If staying alive is your only achievement, that is a big deal. I look at us like vehicles, okay? Some people are like an automatic, okay? So in an automatic, you just wake up, which would be the equivalent to pressing the pedal, and you just go. Put it in drive, you just go. But then some of us, survival is like a stick shift. So the second you wake up, you're having to shift it in all these different gears, and you're like, what do I do? Oh no, I've got to turn this way. Oh wait, here I go. Oh wait, now it's this time. Oh no, this person's talking to me. Oh God, I'm supposed to turn that in, but I forgot. Oh wait, what time is it? Oh no, I'm supposed to call her. I never responded to all those messages. Oh no, they hate me. Look at how that person looked at me. And you're pulling the stick shift left, right, up, down, just to get down the street. Meanwhile, people who aren't going through depression or suicidal ideation or anything, they just put it in automatic, push the pedal, and go. And sometimes they may have to slam on the brake, because sometimes everybody in life has moments where they just feel horrible. But for people who are chronically depressed, it is like operating a stick shift emotionally, because just surviving, just driving through life is a challenge. And the average person who's not suicidal, surviving is not a challenge. Getting out of bed is not a challenge. Interacting with people is not a challenge. Leaving your house is not a challenge. But for people going through depression, it is a huge achievement just to stay alive. So Heather, I love what you said, because that is so true. Thank you again, Sherry, for moderating, because I don't know what Stephanie said, but apparently it must have been bad if you took it off. I still find strength from the strength that she shared in the little time she was here. Same here. It's crazy how such a young girl like inspired so many of us. You know? Even remembering to eat is a challenge. Well, I have binge eating disorder, so for me, I have to like I have a tendency to make myself sick from how much I'll eat, which that's also a problem, but yeah, I know what you're saying. I think non-depressed people don't have like disordered eating in general. Courtney says, you have numerous people to reach out to. Please do that. This is not the forum. This live stream is for Caitlyn on our angelversary. Thank you. And trust me, Sean, there, as you know, because Ian and I talked to you, but it's not just us, because, you know, I'm a mother, and he's a full-time truck driver, and sorry for like saying your occupation like this publicly, but I don't think you care. But there are tons of people in the Caitlyn community and on the Facebook pages. If Courtney, you could post the name of the group again in the chat. There is bound to be somebody out of all those people who would definitely respond to you. I've been sick for a few weeks of depression. I'm really sorry, James. Do you know what's causing it? Is it the weather? Is it this time of year? Is it situational? Or is it just in your head? Or is it physical? Because for me, it can be a mix of all those things. So I don't even, what is the day today? Today's the, like 30? I mean, the day, Monday. Okay, so today's Monday. So New Year's is falling on a, okay. I wonder if Caitlyn celebrated New Year's. I wonder if she liked New Year's, because I know she didn't like Christmas, and I know she loved Halloween. But I wonder if she celebrated New Year's. Like, I wonder if she saw it as like transformative. You know, because a lot of people look at it as like a transformative time, like, okay, let's make a resolution. But then some people don't. Some people just see it as any other, you know, time, because time is an illusion. And so they just see it as a blending, just another day. I wonder how Caitlyn saw it. I believe a crisis text line that will help you. There is actually, there's one where people will talk to you through text. I wish I remembered it offhand. It's like #1313. I'll have to find it, but actually, you know what? I'll find it right now. It they'll text you back. The only downside to it is that if you walk away, if you stop talking for like more than like, I want to say 3 minutes, then they'll disconnect you, or they'll stop talking to you. You have to like re-text them again. But text for crisis. So it is I'll just put it in the chat. Hold on. And this is for you. This is for the USA. So you text home, capital H, capital O, capital M, capital E, to the number 741741. So that's capital HOME to 741741. And it's free. It's completely free. Okay. I'm going to find one for over in the UK. Okay. So there you just text text to... Okay, so if you text this number, you can text them whatever you want in the UK, and it'll connect you to, again, this is free. In the UK, it's 85258. And Sean, you're over in Brazil. So let me see for you. 1 second. I can't read the language, so I'm having to translate it. Okay, unfortunately, it's only the UK, US, and Canada. It says they're looking for one in Latin America. And wait a second. I'm on the Wikipedia now for crisis lines, and it's updated a lot. So I'm looking for where you are in Brazil. Okay, here we go. Okay, so you probably already know y'all's like 188 is a number, but I don't think you can text it. That's in Brazil where you are, Sean. Thank you, Courtney, for sharing. Thank you. Thank you, James. It's nice to have you here. So, okay, I really do need to leave now. I feel like every time I say that, somebody says something extremely like interesting or important, and then it's like, I want to acknowledge that. So, yeah, I do need to get off, and I will be back. Again, thank you, Sherry. Thank you, Courtney. Thank you, Alicia. Thank you, Heather. I've really liked what you've had to say, Heather. It's been, I feel like, very impactful. Thank you, Melly, for sharing that. Thank you, everybody else. Thank you, James. Thank you, John. And Exakumi. I am so glad, Exakumi. Oh, thanks, John. I like the pink heart. I like the purple heart, Sherry. Thank you, Melly. Your name is Tori. Okay, good to know. If I can remember that. Okay. I might be back later. Love and light to you too. Thank you, everybody. Bobby, you too. You know what? I'm actually just going to go to participants real quick. Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you, Kurt. It still shows that Mark Reynolds is in here. Thank you, Mark. Yeah. Again, thank you, Sherry. And thank you, Caitlyn, for the community and awareness that you have created. And just for being you and not ever changing for other people. And bye, Rod. Thank you, Rod, for being here too. Okay. We'll be back. I'll be back. We'll be back. I'll be back. Bye.